clase, buenos días y feliz martes. Hoy es el 22 de septiembre de 2020. Hoy vamos a repasar las preguntas de elección múltiple sobre el video de Visa H2 en voces, el texto en línea. También vamos a repasar la conversación que ustedes grabaron y después ustedes van a contestar la pregunta en Google Classroom. Entonces, van a mirar esta grabación de la lección. Primero quiero repasar las preguntas de escogidos múltiple. Entonces, ayer repasamos, repasamos esta introducción y el audio y video sobre la visa H2 de H2 Visa en los Estados Unidos para trabajar. Ok, número 1. ¿Cuál es el propósito de este anuncio? What is the purpose of this announcement? Llamar la atención sobre el fraude en el sistema de visas dentro de México y explicar cómo se puede evitar este fraude. To call attention about fraud in the visa system within Mexico and to explain how to avoid this fraud. Well, fraud was mentioned, but it wasn't all about fraud. Entonces, no es esa. Opción, animar a mexicanos a conseguir una visa para que haya más trabajadores agricultores en los Estados Unidos. To encourage to encourage more Mexicans to get a visa so that there are more agricultural workers in the United States. Pues no es todo sobre la agricultura. It's not all about the agricultural jobs. So that's the part that makes that untrue. Explicar el proceso para solicitar una visa para realizar un trabajo temporal en los Estados Unidos de manera legal. To explain the process of applying for, it looks like soliciting, a visa in order to realize or carry out a seasonal job in the United States in a legal manner. That sounds right, but let's check our last option. Darles consejos a las empresas estadounidenses para que consigan trabajadores mexicanos. To give advice to the U.S. companies so that they get Mexican workers. Well, this wasn't for the companies. This was directed toward Mexicans that would possibly want to work in the United States. So that doesn't make sense because it's not for companies. This particular video was not. So that means our answer is going to be explicar el proceso para solicitar una visa para realizar un trabajo temporal en los Estados Unidos de manera legal. And that makes sense because explaining the process, if you remember, it was like paso uno, paso dos, paso tres. So like step 1, 2, 3. So it's explaining a process. Número 2. ¿Cuál de estas afirmaciones explica mejor lo que es una visa H2? And just a reminder, guys, too, that whenever we log in, they always change the order of these answer choices. So if you remember choosing an answer like this, but it was maybe letter A or B or D, that's totally normal. They just like to switch them up so we're not focusing on a letter or an order, but rather what the actual information is. So which of these affirmations best explains what a visa H2 is? First option, es un permiso dado por una empresa mexicana a personas de otros países para que puedan trabajar temporalmente en México. So the very beginning, it is a permit given by a Mexican company. Una empresa is like an empire, a company. Well, this isn't given by a Mexican anything, so that's already out. Oh, and the fact that it says to work temporarily in Mexico, this is all about working in the United States. Second, es un permiso de trabajo dado por un gobierno de Latinoamérica a las personas de otros países para que puedan trabajar temporalmente en los Estados Unidos. It is a work permit given by the government of Latin America. And it says to other countries. So, no, this is given by the U.S. government to, and this video is all about to Mexicans who want to work in the United States. So that doesn't make sense. Es un permiso de trabajo dado por una empresa estadounidense. So it's a work permit given by a U.S. company. It's not a company but rather, if we jump down to the last one, because the second half looks just like the second half of the last option, es un permiso de trabajo dado por el gobierno de los Estados Unidos a personas de otros países para que puedan trabajar temporalmente en los Estados Unidos. So it's a work permit given by the government of the United States. So this is issued by the government, not by a company. So that's what makes this last answer choice the best choice. And it's to people of other countries so that they can work temporarily, seasonally in the United States. To whom is this announcement directed toward? So, ¿a quién está dirigido este anuncio? Está dirigido a las personas de países hispanohablantes que quieren trabajar legalmente en los Estados Unidos. It is directed toward people of Spanish-speaking countries that want to work legally in the United States. This specific video was directed toward Mexicans. So this does not make sense to say people of Spanish-speaking countries because it was really just directed toward one Spanish-speaking country. So that doesn't work. Está dirigido a las personas mexicanas, that makes sense, que viven en México actualmente, that currently live in Mexico, y que quieren trabajar legalmente en los Estados Unidos, and who want to work legally in the United States. That sounds like it's going to make sense, but let's check our other answers. Está dirigido a las personas mexicanas que viven en los Estados Unidos actualmente. So, directed toward Mexicans that already live in the United States currently? No. Getting a visa is what someone in another country has to do to come to the United States. Está dirigido a los hispanohablantes de los Estados Unidos que quieren trabajar temporalmente en México. It's directed toward Hispanic-speaking or Spanish speakers in the United States that want to work temporarily in Mexico. No, this is about working in the United States, and it's not just directed toward Spanish speakers in the U.S. It was directed toward people that are in Mexico, Mexican people. So that means our best answer is going to be está dirigido a las personas mexicanas que viven en México actualmente, that currently live in Mexico, y que quieren trabajar legalmente en los Estados Unidos. ¿Qué significa clave? What does clave mean? If you look up the word clave, it means like key, or like important. So key, yeah. So key, the best translation for that will be muy importante. Because una llave is like a physical key to get into a door, not that kind of key. Un código is a code, and innecesario is unnecessary, so that's the total opposite. So clave is going to be very important. ¿Cuál de estas es una sugerencia para evitar el fraude? Which of the following is a suggestion for avoiding fraud? And we could also go back into what we went over yesterday, which was the text. Okay, very good. Avoid fraud. Don't pay extra fees to any person in order to participate in the program for H2 visa. There are no additional costs for applying for the visa, for the interview, for if you decide to drop out or quit, resign, that's the word, renuncia. The fee is $190 for your application, and it covers everything. So that's where it talks about that. So pay an extra fee quota to a person at a job fair so that this person helps you more. No, they just said do not pay extra. The $190 covers everything. If you suffer mistreatment, call the phone number. They didn't mention that in the fraud section. They do want you to do that, but that's not going to help you with fraud. No pagues más de $190. Don't pay over $190. That makes sense, but let's check our last answer. Paga por la petición de trabajo. Pay for your work permit. That doesn't help you avoid fraud. They didn't mention that. So don't pay more than $190 is your best answer there. ¿Cuál de estas siguientes frases comunica la misma intención que estas actividades no necesariamente te descalifican? And so if we hop back to where they talk about this, it says about your interview, it's important that you tell the truth. Honesty is key. Prepare to speak about your most recent visit to the United States or the times that you have tried to cross the border. These activities don't necessarily disqualify you from the program. So this is the section we're looking at, or that they're referring to. So, las cosas que has hecho no necesariamente te excluyen. The things that you have done don't necessarily exclude you. That sounds like it makes sense, but let's check our other answers. Tus acciones en el pasado no necesariamente te impiden. Your actions of the past don't necessarily stop you, impede you. That almost sounds like it makes sense, but exclude is going to be a better synonym for disqualify than stop. Las actividades no necesariamente te autorizan, the activities don't necessarily authorize you. That's kind of the opposite of descalificar. Disqualify, authorize. Authorize means to allow. So that doesn't make sense. And, hey, tus acciones en el pasado no necesariamente te permiten. Again, opposite of disqualified, allow you. So our best answer is going to be las cosas que has hecho no necesariamente te excluyen. 7. ¿Cuál de estos no es uno de los derechos garantizados a los trabajadores temporales? Which of these is not one of the guaranteed rights to seasonal or temporary workers? Recibir la paga a tiempo y recibir pago extra por horas extraordinarias. Actually, before we look at this, let's go ahead and see where they talk about this. It says it's very important that you know your rights as a worker. With the H-2 visa program, you have the same rights as those workers in the United States, as all workers in the United States. It's your right to receive your pay on time, to receive extra pay for overtime or extra hours, and to receive good treatment and clean living. So that's where they were talking about that. So which one is not a right guaranteed by the seasonal jobs? To receive your pay on time and receive extra pay for overtime, they just said that you do, that is a right, so that is incorrect. Recibir un buen trato, to receive good treatment, they did already say that is a right. Recibir reembolso por el costo del transporte del trabajo cada día, to receive reimbursement for the cost of transportation. Hey, to work each day, they did not mention that. And earlier in the text, they did in fact mention that you may have to pay for transportation. And vivir en una vivienda que no sea sucia, to live in a living space that is not dirty. That's the same as being clean. And they did say you have a right to that. So our best answer here is going to be to receive reimbursement for the cost of transportation to work each day. ¿Cuál de estas afirmaciones no es uno de los pasos? Which of the following is not a step for the H-2 visa? Luego de terminando tu trabajo temporal, vuelve a tu casa en México. After or later, from finishing your seasonal or temporary work, return home to Mexico. That was one of the last steps. Paso 7, regresa a México cuando termine tu visa. That's what makes it legal. You're here to work. When you're done, you go home. Asegúrate de tener un pasaporte válido y de pagar la cuota para la solicitud de la visa. To be sure that you have a valid passport and to pay the fee in order to apply for the visa. You do have to, that was one of the steps, is that you have to have a valid passport and pay the fee. Acude a tu entrevista para la visa en el consulado de los Estados Unidos. Another step was that you do have to, this is like attend your interview. So these all look like these are steps, so maybe this last one is not. El empleador de los Estados Unidos te entrevistará. The employer of the United States will interview you. They never said the actual employer will interview you. They just said that you will have an interview at the consulate, so like the U.S. government office. So the actual employer doesn't interview the person being hired. The government does, and then they're placed after that. So your best answer will be that One of these that is not a step is this last one. The employer of the U.S. will interview you. And ¿cuál de estas afirmaciones es cierta? Which of these is true? La mayoría de los puestos de trabajo H2 dura 1 o de 2 años. The majority of these positions last 1 or 2 years. No, they had said the majority lasts 3 to 12 months. So that is incorrect. Se puede trabajar para una empresa sin tener visa. You can work for a company without a visa. That is incorrect. It says here, nunca trabajes para una empresa para la que no tengas visa. You will never work for a company in which you don't have a visa. You have to have a visa to work for a company in the United States with this program. En el centro de atención de solicitantes te tomarán una foto y las huellas dactilares. So at this this applicant's attention center, they will take your picture and your digital prints, and that is mentioned right here. Make an appointment at this center, this application center, so that they take your picture and your prints. And so we're looking for which one's true. So that one does sound true. So let's make sure the last one is not, though. Aún siguiendo todas las reglas, puede ser difícil recibir otra visa el año siguiente. Even following all the rules, it can be difficult to receive another visa the following year. They did mention this, and this was about reporting abuse. It says, denunciar maltratado por parte de un empleador no te impide obtener una visa para trabajar en una compañía diferente. Oh wait, no, that was a different part. Where did they say this? They mentioned somewhere that following the rules will make it easy for you to get one in the future. I can't find it. But it says, although following the rules, it can be difficult to receive another one the following year. That is incorrect. If you're following all the rules, then you're likely going to receive one the next year. So your best one is going to be here. For some reason, I just can't find exactly in the text where that was. I don't want to keep you waiting. So this is going to be your best answer here. So those are your answers for your Preguntas de Elección Múltiple. Reminder, too, that this is great practice for the AP exam. And even if you got just over half of them right, that is still a passing score, which if you get an overall 3 or higher on the exam, then you can earn, in the actual AP exam, then you can earn automatic college credits. So even if you feel like you're struggling, like you're used to getting more right or understanding more, remember this is all directed toward native Spanish speakers. These are all authentic sources, and they are going to be very difficult. Don't let that discourage you. Just know that using these sources as your source of input, your Spanish input, is only going to be improving your Spanish even more. Because if you're sticking with the easy stuff, it's going to be harder to really expand your Spanish. So last thing I wanted to peek at real quick is the Conversacion, the conversation that you guys recorded after this. So you did also listen to these. I think I already translated these. Yeah. On my last lesson, I translated all this for you. And then you answered in 1 minute each of these questions. That's not what I'm looking at. I want to look at the conversation. That was the AP style. Here it is. Okay, so each AP exam always has a conversation where you're asked to do things like greet someone, give your opinion, answer yes or no, offer details or explanation, invite someone to do something, ask questions, suggest something, accept something, thank someone, say goodbye. They give you tips for how to have a successful conversation score, some some phrases that may help you generally in all of the conversation practices that we're going to be doing throughout the year and on the actual exam. So this is how the conversations work. You have 20 seconds to record your response every time it's your turn to speak. There's always an introduction. So in this case, you're going to participate in an interview because you have applied for a seasonal job for this summer while you're studying in an exchange program at this university in Mexico called UNAM, and you're at a job fair, una feria de trabajo. You're conversing with Joel Pacheco, el jefe de una empresa pequeña internacional in Mexico. So it tells you how he's gonna, like what he's gonna say to you, like a general overview of the type of thing he's gonna say, and then it tells you how you have to respond. And then it goes back and forth, and each time it's your turn to respond, you just record your response for 20 seconds. And here it gives you an outline as to what he's saying. So I just want to translate his transcript for you so you can kind of get an idea as to how much you understood of what he said, because that's how you can kind of gauge what your score would be. Now, normally there's only 5 things that you're responding to. This one has 6. So in order to get a 5, you would have had to respond in a way that makes sense for each of them and in a very clear way, and there's a rubric that was attached. But first he says, Buenas tardes, me llamo Joel Pacheco, soy el jefe de esta empresa y voy a entrevistarte para uno de los puestos temporales que, why am I reading this? We can listen to him.
Buenas tardes, me llamo Joel Pacheco. Soy el jefe de esta empresa y voy a entrevistarte para uno de los puestos temporales que tenemos este verano para alumnos internacionales. Veo que tienes interés en trabajar en México. ¿Puedes hablarme un poco de ti? ¿Dónde aprendiste a hablar español?
Okay, so his Spanish is way more pretty than mine. All right, so he says, good afternoon. My name is Joel Pacheco. I'm the boss or the head of this company, and I'm going to interview you for one of the seasonal positions that we have this summer for international students. Alumnos are students, not alumni. That's a false cognate. I see that you have interest in working in Mexico. Can you talk to me a little bit about yourself? Where did you learn to speak Spanish? And then you would have had to introduce yourself, answer the questions with personal info in 20 seconds. So you would have pressed record and then stop. On the actual exam, you wouldn't have to press anything. It would just record the whole conversation. And then he says,
Bueno, ya tengo el resto de tus datos personales en la solicitud que llenaste al entrar a la feria. Todo se ve impresionante. Gracias. Ahora, ¿tienes un pasaporte válido para viajar a México? ¿Cuándo llegarás?
So then he says, okay, I already have the rest of your personal info on the application that you filled out when you entered the job fair. Because remember, that's the scenario. We're at this job fair, and you're talking to this boss dude. Everything seems impressive. Thank you. Now, you have a valid passport to travel to Mexico. Or do you have a valid passport to travel to Mexico? When will you arrive? So then you would answer affirmatively saying, yes, I have a valid passport for Mexico, and offer details. And then he says,
Pues somos una empresa pequeña, pero necesitamos gente joven que pueda trabajar horas flexibles. La mayoría de nuestros trabajos dura 2 meses del verano. Por eso necesitamos trabajadores temporales. ¿Ya conseguiste tu permiso de trabajo y tu visa para estudiar en la UNAM?
So then he said, well, we are a small company, but we need young people that can work flexible hours. The majority of our workers, or of our jobs, last 2 months in the summer, so we need seasonal workers. Did you already get your work permit and your visa in order to study at the UNAM, the name of the university? And then that is where you would respond negatively, explaining when and where you're going to get these documents. So you would have to say, no, I did not already get my work permit or my visa to study, and then you would explain when you're going to. And then he says,
Esos documentos normalmente no tardan en llegar. Podemos hablar con el consulado si no llegan pronto. ¿Sabes dónde estarás viviendo mientras estés en México?
So then you would, or he said, he said, these documents normally are not late. They don't arrive late. So we can talk with the consulate if they don't arrive on time. Do you know where you will be living while you are in Mexico? And so then you're going to answer the questions and offer an explanation.
Aquí está el contrato de empleo. Mi número está aquí abajo. Puedes llamarme si tienes alguna pregunta antes de empezar. ¿Estás listo para trabajar? Nos encantaría que pasaras el verano en nuestra empresa. Bienvenido.
And he says, our company can offer you a car if you accept the job. Do you have a driver's license? And as this is just seasonal work or temporary work, we offer the opportunity to work extra hours in which you will receive additional pay. Would you be interested in working extra hours? How many extra hours a week would be reasonable for you? And then you would explain or answer the questions and offer an explanation. And then to end,
aquí está el contrato de empleo. Mi número está aquí abajo. Puedes llamarme si tienes alguna pregunta antes de empezar. ¿Estás listo para trabajar? Nos encantaría que pasaras el verano en nuestra empresa. Bienvenido.
He says, this is the contract, the work contract. My number is here at the bottom. You can call me if you have a question before starting. Are you ready to work? We would love for you to spend the summer at our company. Welcome. And that is when you would accept the offer and give him thanks, aka thank him. So if you would like to see the transcription, feel free to screenshot this or pause this so you can read it yourself. That usually helps me. I didn't want to go back and forth just because the outline was there, but I did want to translate that for you so that you could get your own idea as to how well you understood it. And then whenever you are thinking about reflecting upon your score, then you would look at the rubric here. So it's a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 scale. And usually, again, there's usually 5 things that you're answering, so it makes it easier to think about how many times did I answer in a way that makes sense now that I have heard how or what the translations really mean that he is saying each time. So that is the conversation. I wasn't grading this for according to this scale yet because we haven't practiced them enough yet. That was just your first practice one. So as long as you responded to each of them and just did your best, then you would get your credit there. So as always, como siempre, dime si tienen preguntas y voy a tener una pregunta en Google Classroom. I will have a question in Google Classroom for you to answer about después de este repaso, que ya está más claro. I want you to tell me what is now more clear after I have shared the translations and gone over it all with you. Bien? Okay, muchas gracias.